Hello, hockey and basketball fans. My name is David. What I would do is mention in terms of games to be played before the NHL goes on its own All-Star break that involve Canadian teams. So what I'm going to do first is go to Leafs and Bruins. Be on. Just going to. So it's 5:06 on the afternoon of Wednesday, 1st of February, North American Eastern Time. So what I would do is go to turn to the TV broadcasts. It's going to. We have on. So broadcast start 9 for the actual game. Well, tip-off expected to be a few minutes after 9 Eastern. Pre-game show for half an hour before that for the Raptors. That's on Sportsnet 1. And on the Sportsnet regional channels, the Leafs and Bruins. Let me see. Whoops. Where we go here? Alright, so we have Hockey Central. So that's 7 Eastern Time, 4 Pacific. On all 4 Sportsnet regional channels, i.e. East, Ontario, West, and Pacific. So that'll be it in terms of games to be played by Canadian NHL teams until next week, Monday. So what I'm going to do is go to here. No game there. No game there. At least involving Canadian teams. So we have the All-Star teams. We have the Central and Pacific Division teams. The Metropolitan and Atlantic ones. That'll be on the 4th. You have the All-Stars there. And then the winners of those matches, 5 is the I don't know what TV network they'll be on. That's Eastern Time. Just give me a moment here. Alright, let me just go. Just gonna get here. No games at all. And then we have on Monday, we have the Canucks and Flames in action in different parts of the New York City metro area, with the Flames in Manhattan to take on the Rangers, and the Canucks somewhere near Newark at the Prudential Center to take on the Devils. So yes, in terms of the NBA All-Star breaks a bit later in February, somewhere in mid-February, I believe it is. You can see in the Raptors schedule, it's on Sportsnet. We have, doesn't quite show, but basically there's a significant gap between the 14th and 23rd of February, so that would be probably the All-Star break. So it's going to be a 3-game road trip. The Utah Jazz this week Wednesday, followed by Friday against the Rockets, and Sunday against the Grizzlies. Then the Raptors will be coming home on a homestand that ends on the 23rd. And they will stay within the Great Lakes, North American Great Lakes region for the rest of the month. So it's going to be a very important few games to determine whether the Raptors have any realistic hope of qualifying for a play-in spot. So yeah, that's going to be the narrative. As again, I'm just going to go to the NBA standings. Just give me a moment here. Oh wait, so let's go. I'm going to go to Sportsnet. Figure out if the NBA standings. So let's go do Do it by conference. Oops. I'm going to see here. You can see the Raptors are at 13.5 games out of first are in 12th. So that means 3 teams have lower winning percentages than them. Those being the Magic, Hornets, and Pistons. But again, the Raptors over the last 5 games. Alright, so over the last 5 games, the Raptors have won 3 and lost 2. But it doesn't show the last 10 how the Raptors done. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go with the NBA standings as of the NBA that are shown on that league's own website. So I'm going to just go to there. And what the narratives are. Oh, the NBA has power rankings, so-called power rankings. That would be interesting because, I mean, I like the power rankings put out by the Hockey Guy YouTube man, based somewhere in the lower mainland of BC. But there doesn't seem to be like a YouTube video where you have teams change places every now and again. With the Canucks kind of at the bottom, near the but definitely the worst among Canadian teams as of the last power rankings before. Let's see here over the last 10. Let's see about overtime. How various teams have done. All right. I accept cookies. Thank you very much. All right. So we have whoops. Oh, hate when these websites just. All right. So I do apologize. You look there. The Raptors have in their. What I like about the NBA standings is to show overtime results. And of those, the Raptors have lost 3. So if they were an NHL team, they'd have 49 points. And would still be out of a playoff spot. They'd be even out of a play-in. Because when it comes to the conference here, we have, each conference has a playoff spot here. So the Eastern Conference, we have, these are the standings. Yeah. So, if the Raptors were in the Eastern Conference, so in the Eastern Conference, you have the top 6, the 6 teams that are in top 3 divisional spots. Then we have the wild card teams, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, the top 4 teams in the wild card position, well, the Raptors would not be in any of them. And, the Sens have won 4 in a row. But again, they still are 6 points back of the nearest playoff spot. And that's because, the Lightning seem to be doing well. I mean, they're even doing better than the Leafs in the last 10. So we'll get to that in a moment. So in terms of narratives going into the All-Star break, the NBA All-Star break, the Raptors is to try to get on a consistent roll. The Raptors are, because January was kind of a mixed bag. 8 home, 8 away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 16th. 6, 7. So the Raptors went 7-9 in January. Not great. Not sure how many of them were in overtime, but again, the NBA wins and losses count. It's winning percentage, not points. So yes, the Raptors did not do very well in January. So they're going to have to do a lot better in February if they are going to have a chance of finishing no worse than 10th, and thus have a chance to see playoff action. So, what about the NHL teams going to the All-Star break? Well, the Leafs have had to play 2 games in a row without an injured Austin Matthews in the lineup. Earlier in the month, earlier in January, Matthews came down with some sort of illness, and thus was unavailable to play. It's a mixed bag what happened, because without Matthews in the lineup during the whether they're just going to go back to the Leafs and how they did. So we're going to go to the Leafs. I'm going to go to the Leafs and during the month, how they did. Alright, I'm going to go to... Alright, I'm going to go to... Just going to go to Leaf schedule. Alright, I'm going to go to... Because what Sportsnet doesn't show is if there was a loss... that if there was a loss by the Leafs, it didn't say whether it was overtime, shootout, or regulation. Whereas I'm just going to go and just going to see what about the Leafs and their schedule for January. Oh, oops. All right, so. Alright, so... oops. So it was... January was a mixed month. Overall, the Leafs end up... end up having a little bit of a point streak going from... from the week of the 15th of January... to... the 26th of January. So that represented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games with a point. Finishing off January on a high note. So, all in all, during January, 3, 7, 10, 13, 14. 14 games the Leafs played in January. And of those, Leafs won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Leafs won 8 games. Of those games, Leafs ended up losing. They lost 1 in a shootout, 1 in overtime, the other 4 in regulation. The problem was, of those games the Leafs lost in regulation, only one of them, 4-3 to the Bruins, on the 14th of January Eastern Time, featured the Leafs having scored at least 3 goals. There were some pretty embarrassing results. With the Leafs losing badly to the Kraken 5-1 on the 5th of January. That was with Austin Matthews in the lineup. However, during the week of the 8th of January, Matthews was in the lineup on that Sunday and on the Saturday. But during the week, he was out due to illness. And there were 2 games during the week that did not feature Matthews in the lineup and able to drive play. And in those 2 games, it was a mixed bag. The Leafs ending up winning their first one, 2-1 regulation to the Preds. That was a home game to the Preds, so I'm just going to look it up here as to the sequence of goals. I believe the Leafs ended up taking a lead, but there was never a 2-goal lead the Leafs had, I believe. I'm just going to throw it out there. So we go here. Very minimal scoring. Alright, so there. So yes, on the power play, the Leafs ended up not doing very well. Yeah, the Leafs ended up having a lead, but they never had a lead of over a goal. And it was for almost 2 periods, Leafs went without a goal. Well, it was more than 40 minutes without a goal. That lack of urgency, the Leafs didn't know how to execute on UC Saros, and barely got by with a win. The Leafs would not be so lucky the following evening. That was against a Detroit Red Wings squad. The Leafs had beaten over and over again loads of times. Oh, that's not Ville Husso, excuse me. That was UC Saros. Another Finnish goalie, Ville Husso, made 32 saves in a win by the Leafs. And in that game, there were contributions. In terms of from any given forward, only from Tavares. That's right. The bottom 6 forward group, no one scored. No one got a point. Without Austin Matthews in the lineup, no bottom 6 Leaf forward got a point in that game. And when you look at the Senators game, with Matthews out this time due to an injury, Leafs had no chance against the Sens, even though it should have been the Leafs being able to win. The Leafs should have found a way to win without Austin Matthews in the lineup, but because Leafs did not do that, the narrative once again, no Matthews, big problem. So that's going to go. So, we have Joey Anderson from Kerfoot and Hall, Nylander from Tavares and Marner. Nowhere near enough the amount of offense that the Leafs needed. And we know what the result was, a loss. It's been a problem when the Leafs have failed to score 3 or more goals. Too often, Leafs have failed to score at least 3 goals, they've lost. They have a losing record. No surprise. But without Austin Matthews in the lineup, it's been a mixed bag. So Leafs, during their... So far, Leafs have played 4 games after last preseason without Matthews in the lineup. During those games, Leafs have been outscored. Wait for it here. 11-5 going into their game against the Caps. So, all right, let's see here. All right, 11-5. So 12-10. That's right. 12-10. Leafs have been outscored. Just under 3 goals a game on average, the Leafs have managed to score when Matthews has not been in the lineup. So the narrative is going to be for the Leafs is what happens what happens if in February Matthews is out for much longer than the All-Star break? That's going to be interesting to find out. Because the Leafs can't figure out a way to win consecutive games when Matthews is out of the lineup, so they will be in trouble. And that's the problem. Can the Leafs beat the Bruins without Austin Matthews in the lineup? Leafs are going to have to do so, or else I'm going to ask the question, well, are Leafs going to have to, will Dubas have to make a move to help, stop the bleeding? That's going to have to happen. You know where the Jets are. Because yes, the Leafs are in the standings, they're relatively comfortable. Indeed, among games still to be played, games to be played before the All-Star break, there will only be one. The Canes and Sabres. Will Leafs manage to get at least 15 points up on the Sabres? We'll see. Doesn't matter whether the Sabres are in or out of a playoff spot by the time the Canes-Sabres game ends. What matters is that the Leafs win as many games as they can. I mean, the Bruins probably going to clinch a playoff spot, earlier than the Leafs. What the Leafs need to do is practice beating playoff-bound teams, because by doing so, I see it more likely that the Leafs will develop the skills that they need to beat playoff-bound teams. But I'm not convinced. Well, it's been a mixed bag. I mean, when I go to the Leafs' record against the Bruins, it's been mixed. All right, so yes, the Leafs on this evening Eastern time So basically the Leafs have after tonight's game, one more left against the Bruins, and that'll be at TD Garden. It's been mixed though, because the Leafs beat the Bruins at home, but only by a goal, and only managed to score 2 goals. Can the Leafs score at least 3? That is to be determined. So it'll be a good test for playoff readiness, because the only team the Leafs are going to get to play in the postseason before the Stanley Cup final will be those in their own conference. So the Leafs got to work particularly hard to beat Eastern Conference playoff-bound teams, because who knows? So that's going to be the narrative. Can the Leafs make do with an Austin Matthews in the lineup? Get a win streak going. That'll be good. So, Leafs are still 14 points ahead of the Sabres for a top 3 Atlantic Division spot. That can be reduced to 13, depending on what happens. If the Leafs lose, 17, 40, that could be to 12, depending on what happens. While the Leafs lose and the Sabres win, Leafs lose in regulation and the Sabres win, well, that'll be the Sabres end up, gaining 2 points on the Leafs, so the Leafs end up 12 points, a dozen points ahead of the Sabres. So, can the Leafs continue to play well with Austin Matthews? Meanwhile, the Sens and Habs have played any game that they've needed to play going into the All-Star break. So, the Sens are getting close to a playoff spot, but are still 6 points out. Will the Sens be able to continue with their upward momentum during the All-Star break? 4 straight games they've won, which is very good. The Habs, meanwhile, have lost 2 straight games, both in regulation, to the same Senders team. Well, I'm not surprised the Habs have done so badly. 44 points over 51 games. Now go to the Winnipeg Jets, and Jets have struggled. So yes, the Western Conference standings will be the way they are. No Western Conference team will be playing another game until after the All-Star break. So next week, Monday, Western Conference teams the first batch of Western Conference teams will play games. So when it comes to the standing in the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets have 65 points, one back of the Dallas Stars for top spot, and 7 ahead of each of the 7 ahead of the Avs, 7 ahead of the Minnesota Wild, and 1 more ahead of the Avs. But again, the Jets can't take for granted their playoff security because, well, Jets have played 52 games. The Wild and Avs have each played 4 fewer. So we'll have to see what happens. It'll be interesting to find out what happened in the Central Division if the Jets continue to slide, which they did, losing 3 games but ending up winning 1. To break a losing streak, but only in the third period of their game against the Blues, well, Jets are going to have to do a lot better job if they're going to win consistently. And after all, the Blues are, well, 8 points back of the Avs and Flames for a wildcard spot. So it's going to be interesting to find out what happened with the Blues, which is becoming a lost season. 5 games lost in a row, all in regulation, and 6 points in the last 10, all via 3 wins. So, yeah, all losses the Blues have incurred in their last 10 have come in regulation. So, what can you do? It's, Blues done well in shootouts, but what can you do anyway? So, when it comes to the remaining Canadian teams, let's face facts, these Canucks, 43 points over 49 games, so 1 point behind the Habs for second last among Canadian teams on points. Point percentage, the Canucks is 43.9, and that of the Habs is 43.1. So Canucks are actually better in terms of point percentage. So Canucks have played 49 games. The Habs have played 51. So technically the Canucks, have played, I'd see how if the Canucks can continue their momentum, their last win. But what can you do? It's hard to know if they will. So now we're going to have the narratives of the other Canadian teams. So the Oilers, with 60 points over 50 games, are 3 back of the Seattle Kraken for top spot in the Pacific. But also of the LA Kings. Kings haven't done great in the last 10, having earned 11 points. The Golden Knights have earned just 6 in their last 10. The Oilers, via an 8-game point streak, have earned 16. So there's a little bit of hope there that at a bare minimum, after the All-Star break, the Oilers will manage to bump at least will bump the Golden Knights out of a top 3 divisional spot. We'll have to see though, because the Oilers have been wildly inconsistent this season. So 8-game point streak is good. But again, so in a tweet a while ago, just going to go back to so just going to go to a tweet of mine about how I've seen the Leafs as a near lock to see playoff action in alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, that was after a Jets loss to the Flyers. Yeah. So I saw among the Oilers, Flames, and Jets, the Oilers is most likely to see playoff action among those teams. I mean, it was not so much an endorsement of the Oilers as much as it was a kind of like a thumbs down to the Jets' recent performance, and thinking, oh, these Jets are a lock. Not so fast. Calgary Flames, meanwhile, have 3 fewer points than the Oilers, 57 points over 50 games, and yes, you got the Preds not too far behind at 54 points. Keep in mind the Canucks are at 43, and therefore probably ain't going to catch the Flames. The Blues probably aren't going to either. The Oilers have been, Blues have been in a tailspin, having lost 5 straight games on regulation. So yes, the Blues are kind of slipping away. So probably realistically at this point, it looks like the Preds are going to, are more likely to catch the Flames than any team below the Preds in the Western Conference wildcard race. So that is going to be interesting. So Flames have 12 points over the last 10, but they're out of a playoff spot because they've played more games than the Avs, but have the same number of points. It'll be interesting what will happen in the Central between the Minnesota Wild and the Avs. The Avs have put up 14 points over the last 10 games to 11 for the Wild. So that's going to be interesting. So what happens to the Flames after the All-Star break? So we're going to have to see. Because the narrative is, when it comes to the Flames, it has been a huge challenge. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's been kind of an up and down season. Let's see what happens. There was supposed to be more chemistry. After all, for Matt Tkachuk, after Johnny Gaudreau had not had any plans to re-sign with the Flames, ended up leaving in free agency to the Blue Jackets, Brad Living was left in an interesting spot. Quite vulnerable, like figuring out what to do so that Matt Tkachuk, coming to the end of his own contract, by last summer, in a season's time, to try to get something. And that's what the trade did. Bring up from the Panthers, included Jonathan Huberdeau on the wing, Mackenzie Weegar on defense. Among those in that acquisition, but through free agency, center Nazem Kadri. Were they supposed to be a dynamic trio, or things haven't worked out quite so well. So go to some stats for the Calgary Flames. So let's see. So when I look to the, so can the Flames comes to consistency? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the various stats of various Leaf players. So I'm just going to see where they are. Alright, I'm going to try to reload here. Alright, so now I'm going to try to get sort of technical difficulties. Alright. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try again. Alright, never mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and see what I can do to get through. Alright. So first I present various stats for Leafs for the regular season. See here how many players have, among forwards, have a minimum of one, have an average of 1 or more points per game. Of those, we have Will Nylander and Mitch Marner with 59, with 28 and 18 respective goals over 51 games. Austin Matthews with 53, 25 of them goals over 47 games. And John Tavares with 51, 21 of them goals over 51 games. Bunting and Yarncrook otherwise have among forwards at least half a point per game. Kerfoot among those forwards who doesn't who have averaged under half a point per game, still close. I mean, they're playing, if he didn't line up for his 52nd game tonight, he would need to get, in order to get up to half a point per game, 3 points against the Bruins. Good luck with that. Among Blue Liners, not so bad. They have some notable Blue Liners with at least half a point per game on average. Of those, we have Morgan Riley with 22 points, 1 of them a goal, over 36 games. Connor Timmins with 12 points, 1 of them goal, over 18. And that's pretty much it. However, when it comes to forwards, it's kind of a little bit disappointing among the others. I mentioned Kerfoot. Engvall, 18 points, 10 of them goals over 49 games. Well under half a point. Not even with not even 2/5 of a point per game. You have David Kampf with 16 over 51. Not very good. And here are the points. Holmberg, 13 in 32, 5 of them goals. Zach Aston Reese, 7 points, 5 of them goals, over 48 games. Nick Robinson, when he was in the lineup, over 15 games, this season will end up with 5 points, 2 of them goals. Not great. Joe Anderson so far has 3 points, 2 of them goals over 10. We have Wayne Simmons with 1 point and assist over 12 games. So, yeah, Leafs have quite a few with at least half one per game. Let's see how the Calgary Flames are done in terms of. Alright, so. Alright, so. I do apologize if lighting is not that good. So what I would do is, when it comes to forwards, do any of them have at least a point per game? No. 45 points, 15 of them goals, over 49 games. We have Elias Lindholm. Tara Toffoli, a winger, 42 points, 18 of them goals, over 50 games. Nazem Kadri, 38 points, 19 of them goals, over 50 games. Jonathan Huberdeau, 33 points, 10 of them goals, over 47 games. Alright, who's Michael Backlund? Is he a defenseman? I seem to forget here. Just going to see. Oh, he's a center, excuse me. So Mikael Backlund. Oh. Backlund, 59 points, 9 goals over 50 games. Wow, not even a fifth of goal per game on average. I mean, not great. Let's see here. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, it's kind of a little bit of a screen freeze. Oh, come on. Oops. Alright, where do I go here? Okay, so Dylan Dubé. Alright, let's see. Oh. Maybe what I should do is just... Alright, so we're going to go to Calgary Flames 2022-23. So let's go with the Calgary Flames. What I'm going to do is do the Omaha version. On some devices it displays the desktop version. I don't necessarily like it. Go to the roster. Alright, we have... Alright, do we go to Dylan Dubé, the center? So he has 27 points, 12 of them goals, over 50 games. Andre Mangiapane, 26 points, 10 of them goals, over 50 games. So Mangiapane is a winger, originally from Bolton, in Caledon, Ontario. How's he done? Well, barely over half a point per game. Blake Coleman. Alright. Okay. He has a +7, whatever. But not even having scored, and he didn't even put up on average half a point per game. Not very good. Adam Ruzicka, another one with half a point, having average over half a point per game. Well, he's played 37. He has 20 points, 6 of them goals. So Adam Ruzicka's center. Not sure if he's on a 2-way contract, but he was drafted in 2017. Originally from Bratislava in the west of Slovakia. And Trevor Lewis, we have 15 points, 8 of them goals over 50 games. So not really a lot of offense there. And right, Michael Stone, defenseman. Richie, the winger. So among other forwards, we have Milan Lucic. His contract expires after the season. 13 points, 4 of them goals, over 47 games, and a -8. Yikes! What exactly does he do? Alright, where's Lucic? Okay, he's the winger. He was acquired in 2019. I believe Lucic has spent loads of time with the Bruins and a whole bunch of other teams, so I'm just going to take that there. So he was born in British Columbia, East Vancouver. So, yeah, he's played loads of games. So Milan Jr. is the son of Milan Sr. So Luch, I call the older Milan. Yeah. So what I'm just gonna do here is I got a notification on for his devices that yes, it was from Apple News. So if you hear that noise, I do apologize. So yes, so it's been quite a bit of a career. Started off with the Quitlam Express in the BC Hockey League, 2004-05. When was he born? Team for second year. 1988. So 1988, June 1988, he was born. So he basically started when he was a 16-year-old. At least that's where it starts off. BCH, the BC Hockey League, put up 23 points, 9 of them goals, or 50 games played. So when was this? What round was he selected? Let's give me a second here. He was selected in the, was selected 50th overall. I believe that he was thus selected in the second. How there? We'll do this in the judge draft here. All right, so yeah, he was. Lucic was selected late in the second round. So he played one game, 2004-05 season, 2004-05 hockey season, North American hockey season, with Vancouver Giants of the Western Hockey League, playing in only one game, putting up 2 penalty minutes. In the postseason, he played 2 games, didn't put up a point in the WHL during that very season. But the following season, he didn't really do very well during the regular season. 19 points, 9 of them goals over 62 games. Not very good. Not great by any stretch of the imagination. Indeed, he earned under a third of a point per game during the regular season on average. 7 points, 3 of them goals over 18 games. The postseason, he earned was returned proportionately points per game, higher in the postseason for the Vancouver Giants than during the regular season. 2006-07 season, regular season, he put up 68 points, 30 of them goals over 70 games. So yes, he was pretty impressive. Much a huge improvement over his basically his first full season. 19 points, 7 of them goals over 22 playoff games. Nothing to sneeze at either. And then it was time to join the Boston Bruins. So when was he drafted again? Okay, he was drafted in 2006. So during the 2006-07 season, he continued with the Vancouver Giants, joining the Bruins the following season, however. So 27 points, 8 of them goals over 77 games. And it doesn't appear that he spent any time in the AHL or East Coast Hockey League after, with any organization, for that matter. Certainly when it comes to points per game, he had 9 points, 63 goals. So during his career, his NHL career, he has averaged over half a point per game. In terms of playoff games, same thing. However, during his time after the Bruins, he did okay with the Kings, and in his first season with the Oilers, but not since the 2016-17 season has Lucic averaged during the regular season half a point or more per game. So the Oilers 34 points over 82 games, 2017-18. The next season, each of the following 4 seasons, he put up 20 points in each of them or more, but no more than 23. Playing during those last 4 seasons, respectively, 79, 68, 56, and 82. So, all in all, in terms of regular season, not been very good. Postseason, he put up 6 points, one of them a goal, over 10 playoff games during the 2019-20 season as part of the Flames. But last season, he put up 1 point and assist in 12. So yes, I'm not sure where Lucic is going to go, because among active players, there will eventually be none who are active in the NHL if born before 1990. even those players who joined, some of those players who joined the NHL in the 1990s, if they're still playing, are in their 30s already, and there are very few players, if any, in their 40s or older still active in the NHL. When I think of Joe Thornton, who played with the Leafs a couple of seasons ago, born 1979, well, he's a free agent. So Jumbo Joe, named after an elephant who had died in his hometown. So, very interesting narrative, very interesting, Jumbo Joe. As far as I know, Wikipedia mentions he's a free agent, but that just means that, well, how many teams want him? Well, honestly, I don't know if he's ever going to play in the NHL again. Who knows? I mean, it's just sad to say that, I mean, he had a long career, but again, yeah, when it comes to the Flames, it's hard to know how the season's going to go. But again, in a nutshell, I'm going to wrap this up. It's already getting quite long. So, Leafs are a near lock to see playoff action in the spring. The Jets, I'm not as confident about, but if they can turn their season around, should see playoff action. And the Oilers, we shall see. But I think, a bit more confident about the Oilers because, well, the Oilers have an 8-game point streak going into the All-Star break, and if they can keep that up, they should get into a playoff spot. The only question being whether it'll be a wild card one or top 3 Pacific Division one. Flames are on the fence. It's not really clear if they're going to get in. They're within striking distance of a playoff spot, but with inconsistent play, it's going to be interesting to find out what happens. All right, so let's see about the schedule for the Flames and see what they're going to be at here. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They got 11 games in February. So yeah, look at there. A supposedly easy schedule. Ha! The Rangers have Shesterkin. So that will be tough to win. Against some lesser teams, the Flames haven't exactly gone rolling either. So, we'll be playing some Eastern Conference teams until the 22nd of this month, when they roll into Arizona to play the local Coyote squad. And then hop on across to Nevada to play the Golden Knights. And then the Avs over at Ball Arena in Denver. So, all in all, the Flames play only 2 teams from their own conference this month. So let's see how the Leafs So the Flames have a road trip coming up, 4 games against Eastern Conference teams, and then go home to play 3 Eastern Conference teams, the Wings and Rangers at home, but also the Flyers instead of the Sabres and Sens. So it's going to be interesting to find out what happens. Let's see about the Leafs, and if they get to play how many teams against the opposite conference in which they're going to get to play. Well, they play the Hawks. The Hawks twice. Minnesota Wild and Seattle Kraken. So 4 games Leafs get to play in February against inter-conference opponents. So out of 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9. So almost half the games, Leafs will get to play against opponents in the opposite conference. So of games the Flames get to play 3, 6, 10, 11. Only 2 will be against teams in their own conference. That's right, the Flames play in February most of their games against Eastern Conference teams. It'll be a little bit more even in the case of the Leafs in terms of intra-conference games and inter-conference games. So this is getting kind of long. I look forward to seeing the Leafs play the Bruins. And on that note, I'm going to say, hope everyone has a good evening, and go Leafs go.